Oh, there we
Here
go.
we are,
Yeah.
the podcast.
Yes, I have to praise technology right now. This is amazing.
Yeah, we're able to sit here yet again like a couple doofuses on the internet talking about some bullshit idea about fourth dimensional time and space that we completely don't understand. And then we will like butcher it in every possible way in theory, and then probably just like shit it out and reincarnate it into
Okay.
poop.
I mean, that could happen. That's, there's always the realm of possibility, but other things could happen
That
too.
that's actually probably what happened
We,
when
we
like
talk less about the
life
four
was created. That
what
Taylor, that's
hyperdimensional
like
space would be like. Hyperdimensional objects. I saw this in a video game. Um, this guy, we were playing the game, and like there was a box, and when you open the box, like how many boxes shoot out of it? 8 boxes shoot out of it. So it's like inside of one box, there's 8 boxes because that box was had an extra dimension to it, and it was more boxes inside of it.
man, that sounds like probably where this like whole idea that the world happened on accident comes from. 'Cause like fucking some gods probably sat down and ate a bad turkey and started shitting out mankind.
That reminds me of a
They
book where
were
it's like
like,
these
they
people
were
believe
like,
that the universe
fuck,
was sneezed out. The
that's
Prophet
like
Zarkon.
partially our DNA and feces put together.
Our DNA is
And feces.
amazing. That's brilliant. Being DNA, but I mean, like the think of like the biological evolution that led to DNA and how complex even just that one molecule in your body is, and how tiny it is, and how powerful it is, how unique it is. Like, what do you think was the earliest organism to have DNA? It had to be, was it like one of the fishes? Or like did DNA evolve later?
No,
Just
they were
not from
like they were
microbes.
like literally like just living organisms that just exist in no matter what
So,
fucking temperature. No, I'm serious. I'm telling you the legitimate answer.
so
Like
it's like the
they're
primordial
like
soup theory.
they were no, they were like strands of DNA or of living bacteria that could literally survive anything, like the core of the earth, anything. And we evolved from that apparently. I have some relative questions about that theory though, as long with a lot of other theories. Like, fuck.
If you think it's aliens, then I have one thing to say. Really, like how did the aliens get evolved? How does any life get created ever? It has to be created by something that's more than life, right? That lends to the idea of like the immortal theory. Immortals, they're like God. Well, the immortal
No,
theory.
but like it's all based on a principle of understanding though. So like if you understand something, you can now manipulate somebody that does not understand something.
Yeah. That's the idea. Like that's the idea. Like knowledge is power. When you have the position that you know, and somebody's seeking answers from you, then you can tell them whatever you want to. I mean, and then it comes up to you. You get that position of choice of what their answer is.
Yeah. And like depending on what you're looking at too, like it's false. But like if I'm gonna look at somebody, right, who I think is successful, now they tell me they're a millionaire and they have all this like nice stuff. But just because they say that, right, doesn't mean they actually have $1 million. And the other side of that, just because he's got $1 million maybe and has an opinion doesn't make his opinion necessarily a good opinion because like if I decide what I'm doing is morally correct, but you decide it's wrong, well, good luck convincing me I'm doing something wrong if I'm thinking I'm doing everything right.
Yeah, exactly. That lends to that idea you said before, like the power of suggestion, where um, the more you believe it, the harder it is to sway you from it. So it's almost like I saw this on a movie one time. He was describing this teacher came to school and he was teaching these kids and he's like, "You're all good kids. You just got some of you are covered in slime." You know, some people the more you're committed to what you believe in, from a different perspective. From your perspective, it might be like a warm, you know, shell in a way. That's you're like a hermit crab and you're top of the shell, but from the outside it looks like slime and it's gross. So like from another person's perspective, they'd see it as slime and they'd be like, there's a lot of slime to get that person to where there's a sense, right? But like every person has different ideas. What are the things that what's hard? It's hard to hear now because it's like, what are the things that should be agreed on? Is it the things that the majority agrees on, or is that just following the crowd? Is that a smart idea? It's worked so far, but like, are things getting better? Things are getting better, but I mean,
Yeah, I
I'd have to
think
look at
those
some
questions.
statistics. Right?
I think those questions are like not so much.
It's like things are getting
But
better, but people
they're
aren't
not
getting.
so much. They're not so much life questions at all.
Actually,
They're
people are
they
getting.
are they are, but they're not. They're like people go through a phase where they think about these things, but often I think like those topics are a growth within yourself and not actually applicable to the general population of humanity. And that's why those questions can kind of start to seem a little bit like cycling and endless. Because
Yeah,
I don't think that's
I just
actually
like
what's
to put
going
them
on.
out
It's
there,
a
not just to think
distraction.
about them.
It is nice to think about, but they're a distraction for sure. Bro, I gotta show you this. This is cool. All right. Got my fucking little.
They're bound. That's fancy.
All
That's
right.
a really cool style. You got all your pictures, your symbols drawn out. So this is this like levels kind of thing you're talking about,
Well,
or the
this right here. Hold on, maybe I can just hold this closer. What I do? Are you still there?
I'm still
Fuck
here.
this.
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Okay, there we go. So this is pretty much just the
Looks like a chakra thing almost. So
yeah, sort of.
these are
It's
all
like
like different energies, right?
yeah, sort of kind of. It's like this is the tree of life, right? It kind of looks like a DNA strand, right? But like
Not really.
each each part has a certain color and each thing has a certain word that goes with the part. Just for a quick example, like your ideas, your thoughts, like your subconscious would be like this top one would be Kether, which would be like above the head. That's would be like the part associated with it, right? So
Okay.
like and it your thoughts come through and there's a system of energy that it flows through to your body.
So the body looks like it's colored like the planet. Is that intentionally
Yeah,
so?
yeah, yeah. There's a planet thing that goes with this. There's a planet thing that goes with this. There's also like tarot cards that go with this. This is like this is the Seraphim. The Seraphim? I don't know how to say that. The Sephiroth. I'm not sure how that's actually pronounced correctly. But
Sphere.
like in English would be like the tree would be the tree of life, they call it, which I find like super fascinating because like it works with like astrological alignment and stuff. You begin to understand things better, is essentially what it is. And anyways,
It's yellow
this is
central.
that thing I was telling you.
Do the colors represent like the
See,
planets? Like, thing?
the colors, yeah, I think, well, maybe not on that one. That's the human scale. I'm just getting to planets now. But like,
Yeah.
anyways, this one is like the first law, you see I got in the bind there, I got the law thing written there. But like there's the law of creativity thing, and it's just like black, and it's like the point where nothing exists. What would you choose to make exist? Because if nothing exists, nothing's impossible. I was reading that in my book.
Yeah.
David Wells, practical magic they call it, but I just call it practical tools for life. This is cool. I went into depth with this one because this one is
like having an empty psyche.
This one was my birth one, like my planet alignment and everything. So I went into depth with this one a little bit.
This is your alignment?
Yeah, sort of, kind of. So Shakma would be where I actually am on the chart, which would be the gray part, which is also the to the left side of the face. So it's on the left side here, the gray one. So freaking each part's represented with a body part as well. So anyway, Shakma, which is also the symbol because I'm an Aquarius, which is Uranus. So there's the symbol planet for Uranus. Shakma is the law of rotation and cycles. So it's just an imagery of each one of the seasons, right? But what's cool is it's each one of the body parts that can alter, like as you rotate it, it just changes the perception of where it is on an alignment scale.
Cool.
Yeah, anyways, I have a whole bunch of these. I'll just flip through some of these. I don't want to describe each one. They get pretty intricate. This one's classic. Everybody knows this.
That's the eye of Cleopatra or
Horus.
Horus?
It's the eye of Horus.
Okay, yeah. That would make more sense. And what is that?
And then this is
like a face.
I did this on this is the law of reflection, which is, I mean, pretty self-explanatory, right? And I like this one, the law of discrimination and action, which I took my thumbprint and then kind of made it look like a footprint. Because like that's the word is Malkuth, which is which is like the feet, which is the bottom of the chart of the tree. So it's your law of discrimination and action. So like now choosing or deciphering, it's like, how many pies do I really need to make? What do I need to get done? Like, and then acting on it, not just sitting there. But like, I mean, those 10 laws have taken me a couple of weeks of like hardcore reading and studying. I also have a couple new books here, but anyways, this is essentially it. This is pretty good shit. I like it.
It's into the just geometric.
This is cool too. This is the Hermetica. Yeah, by Timothy Frake and Peter Gandy. And then we have the Kabbalah. Wait. The Kabbalah. Like Babylon, but Kabbalah, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, who is this by? I don't even know who the author of this one is. Jeremy P. Tarcher.
Interesting. What's it about?
No, like, okay, this is perhaps the most influential work to come out of American cult scene since the 20th century. And the other one is pretty much just like discover the secret teachings at heart of Western thought, which is really cool because I was on Twitter today and I was reading this Egyptian thing. And it was talking about how Egyptians actually like had developed this thing that was the plough pretty much. But then if you like go Google the first plough ever, it's like comes up that it was John Deere in 1847 or whatever year it was. Created this. plow. And I was like, hey, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm like, you just told me this on this website. I'm like, on Twitter here. I'm like, I'm reading this fact right now. So I went and I copy and pasted that shit and I tweeted both back to back so that you can see both of them. And it's just like 5,000 years ago, they developed this plow. And it took us, this is not something we should be proud of. It took us 5,000 more fucking years to reinvent this shit so that we could like plow our fields. We're idiots.
I think the plow has been like existent for a long time, but like that date that you found is the date of like the patent. It's not the date of the actual plow. Like plows have been along for the longest time.
Yeah. But no, if you type in the first plow like ever, like literally in these words, that is what comes up. And then it's like a steel plow. And I'm like, wait a minute, you guys went from like zero innovation to just like having a steel plow in the Industrial Revolution. I'm like, what about the concept of the like probably the first plow? You're like, hey, let's just use all this precious steel to make a plow we don't even know is gonna work. Of course you knew it was gonna work. Yeah, no, I find it. Yeah, you're looking it up.
You're right, man. I don't see anything about it for like Egypt.
Yeah, but like if you go on my Twitter, it's just like Egyptology. I don't know if it's like people that study like Egyptology or like historians or whatever. They decided this fact and like have a post about it, and I'm like, well, this is hilarious. I'm like, fucking literally, how many BC ago is this? And I'm like, and just 200 years ago, we come up with a plow.
Yeah.
And after that, it all went downhill from there. Like, fucking, we just built a bunch of weapons to destroy each other. Meanwhile, an old civilization, pyramids, which are like the greatest thing to look at today, which still stand there. And then like we're more concerned with killing each other. So like I don't know. Humanity has gone to shit if you ask me. Fucking reincarnations of God's poop.
Yeah.
I think that's the episode name, Taylor. Reincarnations of God poop.
Not bad, eh? Reincarnations of God poop. Not bad for God poop, I'd say. Humanity's done all right for God poop.
Well, if you're like this mystical being, all-knowing of the universe, every time you shit, something good's gonna happen. So, like, I think this is what we call dark matter.
I mean, there's like all kinds of stuff that eat food, right? Fucking.
So, like, really,
the
reason the universe is black is because we're just like floating aimlessly in God's butthole, and every time He farts, fucking dark matter ignites life somewhere's on this map. And then we just keep floating. And like the worst part is this motherfucker thrives off life. So like as we're growing, his butthole is stretching. We're like the butt plug of God, man.
It's like, oh yeah, it feels kind of good. Kind of uncomfortable, but keep it in there. He just keeps growing on him. He's like, oh, something to adjust to. But he doesn't pay attention to it. I wonder how long it's been since God's taken action.
Yeah, he's getting off on this shit. He's like, these motherfuckers worship me.
So it's down in UK, plough. If you look on Wikipedia, it doesn't appear in the English language at all before the year 1100. And I think like the technology didn't change at all in that much time. That's probably why they never named it.
You know what? In 1100, they probably use that word to like defile somebody's daughter.
Her last name must have been Field then. Oh, and here we go.
I miss
Ancient
Field.
Egyptian art.
Right.
It was called an art. We're pointed and strong enough to clear rocky soil. Like, check this out. I'll show you.
Mr. Plow.
It is on Wikipedia. You just got to go to a better place. Apparently, Wikipedia is a better source. Do you switch to? Oh, it just switches to that.
Did I just seriously hear you say that right? Like, did you say Wikipedia was a better source?
Actually, they have the picture here on Wikipedia under plow, but it's under like hoe. It's under hoeing. History, hoeing. And
Yeah.
then it's called an ard. Where to go? Ard. Egyptian word for plow. And then yeah.
No, but they had one that was apparently pulled by animals. I think that's what the post had said, if I'm not mistaken. I've been taking in a lot of knowledge lately, so if I start mixing up facts, all
You gotta,
good, we can
it's weird
correct
because you
those.
gotta trace the roots of the use of the word. And since it was like, I wonder how widely used the plow was. Like it must have been on every farm. Like once it was communicated. Like how often did farmers get out and do anything beyond just going to the market and stuff? Like did they ever go? Well, I'm sure they met people. They
Well,
must
how
have
many dick plows do you think they had?
right? Other farmers.
They
They would
probably had like a dick farm somewheres.
what?
They probably had a dick farm somewheres.
A dick farm. Hmm. Just
And then some guys like, man, there's a lot of dicks here. And they all got together and came up with this idea of the plow. And it was probably some like racial gangbang that they used to like an assassinate an entire group of people by just fucking them up the butthole till they died.
well, that's one possibility, but actually, I don't even think that's a possibility. All things considered, maybe somewhere in the
It's
universe.
not supposed.
You never
It's not
know. The
supposed.
universe is huge and infinite. Really,
It
we think it's
depends what we're
infinite.
talking
We don't
about
really
here.
understand what
If
infinite
we're
is. We don't
talking
understand what the
if
universe
we're
is.
talking about
That's not what we
serious,
can call
we're talking
infinity.
about a serious topic right now. Well, then I guess no, it wouldn't be a possibility. But if we're only talking about like my ridiculous mind, well, it's a possibility because I just said it.
Yeah, I was having a hard time playing on the field of dicks, plowing a butthole idea.
It had a better ring in my head. I don't think
Okay,
it came out.
wait. Yeah, I got something. What if back in the day? This is bad. This is going back to the times of slavery when
Oh
when the
dear.
black people were enslaved and they were kicking cotton fields. If they fucking planted dicks instead of cotton, then they could start a dick revolution and rape all the owners.
Or the black person was seen as soil, and the dick when they would like rape them as domination as slaves. When they raped them, that's maybe where they got the idea for the plow.
Then they came up with the plow.
Wait a minute. I don't think like any of that
It doesn't. I shouldn't have gone back to it.
we I don't think I think we should just leave this topic, move on.
Yeah,
And
let's not talk about how big the universe is.
I think hold on. I think we might have to actually cut a section of that out.
I think we should. I think I'm just moving to a new angle.
So
We're
I
not gonna do cut. We're not gonna do cut.
I think
Just
I
start
think
over.
we'll start that over after Taylor. Like I don't think we should keep that because yeah, that was ridiculous. So we'll just pick up from like here. All right. Anyways,
We're not gonna talk about that.
whatever just happened in the moment where THC mixed with my neuroreceptors in my brain and created this chemistry that was just completely gross and outstanding about a dick field, I don't know. But
Yeah, it's unknown at this point.
well, you see, I'm gonna just chalk that right up there with satanic thoughts. The reason I say satanic thoughts is because like who else would think of such a thing? That was influence from somewhere. I don't think that was no protecting God or anything. That was a God that wants to get me my ass on his
How
field
do you
of
how
need.
do you think wait, how do you think you know Satan and what he would think?
I don't know. I just like make this shit up. I just put myself in that situation. Like if I was a god and I was
You
truly
should
like
say
gonna take a perfect
could
stand.
be.
No, no, no.
Satan.
Like but check it out. If I was a god and I was like put into the stance of something, right? Like so okay, for example, I'm gonna replicate Christianity. So I'm going to live out as perfectly as I can. So say I actually do this, right? Like literally by being perfect, which would mean I would understand everything also.
What do you mean? What
So
do you
like so like if I was perfect, I would also understand everything. Like I said earlier about the knowledge. If I understand something and you don't understand something, right?
This makes me
That
think of
makes
like
me a dictator.
comic books. It reminds me of comic books where
But
like
I just put myself
Thanos
I
has the
put
gauntlet and
myself
he has all the stones. He's got them all activated and he sees everything. He is the universe. Being the universe is being perfect because on such a scale, it's everything. It's beautiful and
I'll
and it has meaning too.
I'll
And
try to demonstrate. I'll try to
it's
demonstrate
trying
what
to
I
think
mean.
it doesn't
Give
really
me
make sense. Hard
give
to
me
imagine.
give me a completely oh poor connection. Switch to audio only. Fuck off.
This isn't balancing here.
Okay. Okay. So this is what I think you should do. This is what like the best way I think I can implement like what I mean in the way I think. Like so give me a completely ridiculously hard situation to like make a judgment out of.
A judgment out of.
Yeah. Like even like a court judgment, like just something that's like super difficult to like decipher. It's like, oh, but this person was like stopping for the dog type thing. But then like this person was doing this. They were both doing good things, but like one of them's going to be prosecuted. Give me a scenario like that. I'll show you like what I mean by like how I put myself into this like what I think this like out of world thought or subliminal thought would do on both sides of the coin.
Okay, so just being unbiased and looking at it from a totally objective perspective and then trying to fully think out each perspective from like each person's perspective. So you need a
Yeah,
scenario
like my
in,
life off that. So like I'm always looking at somebody's perspective and trying to literally like feel the vibes of their life.
um
So give me something. Give me something. I'll show you what I mean.
so like so they like it has to involve multiple people who have some sort of relationship to each other, right? Or like I guess it could be completely random. Let's go with like completely random one.
Okay. I don't care either way.
Um okay, so the people that okay, wait. So it's either for personal reasons or for business reasons that things happen. Really.
Up to you to
Or
decide. I don't
like
care.
there's like three ways things happen. Um I don't know. I just need to come up with a scenario. So it's like nighttime. Okay, there's a mugging, and the guy's mugging because he just ran out of food and he's got no food stamps, and it's a food problem. He's got to eat. He's like, I'm gonna mug somebody. They're gonna have some money, and I'm gonna get by for a little longer. Maybe he has somebody he's taking care of. Maybe he has a kid or something like that. Who knows? Desperate. And so he mugs somebody and picks somebody, and it's like a grandma or something. gets her in the alley and somehow, and um, he goes to take her money, but she doesn't have any money on her. And then would he be justified in responding with violence at that point, just because he's upset? It wouldn't. No, obviously not. I can't even come up with a good one.
No, like he would maybe like respond to violence, or if he's upset, like it depends how unstable he is. So yeah, that's a possibility. So let's go with that.
But that's not really what you were looking for.
No, it's all good. I have a way to keep going.
Um,
So what did he do though that was violent?
okay, wait. No. Here's a different scenario. I'm thinking like a sexual scenario where like there's a girlfriend or like a girl, I guess, who's going behind and being the mistress of somebody else and then coming back and forth like but doing it for fear and not like really wanting to do it, like feeling like she has to, like being compelled into a situation like that. Is it right for her to keep doing it, or is it better if she just like left all of it? But then that doesn't really work either because then nobody wins. Is it better if nobody wins or only one person loses?
Good question.
Yeah.
So, well, do you want that to just be the ultimate question there? Or do you just want to focus on the scenarios? I don't care whichever you want to go with.
When I think about that, like I think about the example of Jesus. He was like the one who lost everything or like, died for sins, right? And that's
Yeah.
supposed to be it. And then everybody was supposed to win because they have the story of Jesus and they can use that to live their lives happily.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how that goes. Yeah.
Okay.
But it kind of just, I don't know. I'm really struggling a lot with that whole idea right now because one, because I was raised with it, and being raised with something, it's like, okay, well, if this is literally how it's going down, and this is how they dealt with things in the Old Testament before Jesus showed up, pretty much like you got 5,000 years of people just being murdered by God because God is like pissed at them for sinning. So every person to ever exist went to hell for 5,000 years.
Do you
And
think that
then
like
like,
Jesus was a
hold
Roman plot?
on, I'm not done. But then like, but no, but Jesus comes and forgives them. But then people would say, the Christians would say like, well, wouldn't that mean that those dead people are forgiven too? And because God's not bound by time. And then it would be like, yeah, well, they're all forgiven too. Well, wait a minute. If he planned everything, does it really matter what I choose to do? Well, no, not really. Because, like, he planned it all. So it's his plan. So everything I do is his plan. So if I decide to murder somebody, that was a part of the plan. And then if I decide to go good later, that was also part of the plan. And like, even if that wasn't part of the plan, it says he's gonna forgive me regardless. So like in the end, this is just a fucked up system. I don't like it.
It's a comedy, is what it is. It all works out. You just gotta believe in it.
It all works out until fucking it never worked out. It was always like this. Like, I really love the story of creation. Like, it's so beautiful. It's great for the first, like, fucking page and a half. And then like next chapter, second chapter, and you know how long a Bible chapter is. Second chapter, it's like, boom, Cain kills Abel.
Yeah, they're not long.
No. So like
Bible's
God,
true because it's
really,
like it's a mixture of stories and like
the
letters
world.
and like a whole bunch of different stuff. It's such a
This is
mixture
how
of
they're
things.
viewing it. This
I
is
haven't
how they're
even read it.
viewing.
What?
Yeah, like this is how they're viewing this. God creates the world, right? And then like it was perfect before they sinned. But like that can't be, because if there's an option for them to choose, and they're like, they just call it freedom of will, they sugarcoat it with that word, a lot of religious believers, like if there was an option for them to choose something else, that means it couldn't have been just this one-sided type of perfect. There would have had to be an option, which means temptation would exist, which means the original sin which would have already been there. So, like, to answer the question, yeah, okay, does God tempt at all? Well, God never tempted through the whole Bible. He says he doesn't tempt, but he tempted in the very beginning. He creates a perfect picture and he puts us there. But I don't think that's what's happening there at all. I just literally think it's like, okay, you have this energy. I think it might have a consciousness like you do, sort of, but better. But like I imagine it like everything inside everything. So the way the planets go inside the body parts, which go inside like the individual, right, is the same way that like that works. That's like the god goes inside the organism of a planet, but like the planet is just like the digestive system, and then like the solar system is like the rest of the body.
Yeah, there's like a piece of everything in everything.
It works. I don't
It's
care. I don't care
this and that, and then
if you decide to rob the bank, don't rob the bank, or sit there and wait while you decide to rob the bank. If a big ass meteor crashes into this planet and blows us all up, we're all fucking dead. Okay? So like I don't think that your daily actions like that really matter. Now, if you're constantly taking for granted the magic of life, and I don't mean magic in a hocus pocus kind of way, I just mean like it's a pretty beautiful thing. If you're just taking that for granted and like using it to your advantage and walking around and like killing hookers after you bang them in a fucking hotel closet and leaving them there and not telling nobody, and then just fucking ripping off a bunch of companies of all this money and like living your life like super chaotic. I truly believe that like those stresses develop a certain kind of state of living, and we call it like psychology, like PTSD or whatever, but like they would develop a state of living and you would visit that in your dream state. Pretty sure that's a similar state to what you're gonna go to when you die. So like in other words, you'd be like creating your own sense of hell. And that's what I mean. A person can really elevate themselves to what that hell could be in a sense of an energy momentum, or they can elevate themselves to enlightenment. And that's really the choices. Like, am I going to allow everything that I think of to affect my actions to the point that is going to stress this unit and give negative feedback back to the universe in that cycle? Or am I going to choose to take good things and fill this unit with it and then give off positive things back to the universe? And then the universe is going to then shape itself because of decisions I made. So like if I have a poor decision of causing me not to work, chances of me buying this, and this thing that are in my room right now would be impossible. I wouldn't be able to have keyboards or any of that because I would have made a choice that affected that, and therefore really affects the physical environment. because that's also affecting my development as a person, who I'm becoming, what I'm going to do, right? So, like, the longer, say, I didn't discover music, say, for another 2 years, that means I would be just starting to play keyboard, right? And then I would be starting pretty much where I was 2 years ago.
Yeah, but you're not. You're where you are now, which
Yeah.
is the
But, like, I don't
important
mean
one.
like myself. I just mean like as an overall example. Like there's a very much a flow of life to understand there. And if you want to look at like a God organism, like I just think that you should look at God as the central brain of the universe. And whatever that is, which would be a point of life existing. So
Grab
so
my guitar.
so far so far everybody says it's like, okay, we don't know. We don't know. I'm going to take the stance that we know this much. We know that it's unlikely that the universe was probably random because of how perfectly everything goes into
It
each
wasn't
other.
completely random though. The laws of physics applied at everything past like 0 point like however many seconds after the Big Bang. Physics worked. So we know
Yeah.
that. No chemistry
Yeah.
works.
So like that's exactly it.
Like
So
everything works. Biology works.
we know it's not random. So
And then technology works.
intellectual design. And so intellectual design is essentially God.
Intellectual design. So so I mean like humans are capable of God because they
Well,
are capable of
no,
intellectual design.
I think we're capable of something great, but I don't right now, and I'll never know the answer to this question, but right now I'm just like imagining a God, okay? And if you take like his fingertips and he can like 5 times 5, right? 5 to the power of 5, his fingertips to creations of something, and 5 to the power of 5 creations of that, right? And it keeps multiplying. I imagine humans are like those little multiplications that he's creating, right? And but like really it's just an extension of. So like you're experiencing things. So like if I plugged a USB cord into a planet and got knowledge from that, so like he's plugging this USB cord into life and like getting knowledge from that. I don't know why we have this urge to like refer to fucking God as a he, but like I sometimes like to think is like was an atom like the way an atom, a proton, and a
Okay, well,
neutron. There's
God
three.
being everything. When you say God is they, is God. God is all of it. God is
Yeah,
all.
yeah, but like, look, check this out: an atom, a proton, and a neutron. Now you have three things, right? So you have atom, okay, and then you have the proton, right, and the neutron. So atom. Okay, which one's the brain there? The atom is the brain, which I don't remember how that works. Fucking no, the proton would
The
be.
proton and the neutron are in the form the nucleus, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So the nucleus,
And the
right? Is
electron
the
orbits around
control.
it.
They're like the control panel, right? So they're
Probability
like your solar
zone.
system. They're like your solar
Some
system,
stuff.
right?
What?
So like they're like your solar system. So like they're orbiting to make that machine run. So your brain, right, is those two things running around, right? And you have an atom, right? But what's awesome is they oppose each other. This is like the simple biology of like human chemistry is like opposition. We have a male and we have a female. We have an atom and we have a proton. So I think this is where we can get the idea of God and goddess from.
Yeah. And then, that's a great idea. And then like the
I
Garden of Eden being that kind of molding, that first fusion of elements of hydrogen. Really, we're talking about hydrogen. And we're talking about the components of it. So what was attached to the neutron was so wait. proton, electron orbiting. Maybe don't think about it, but one of them one's the other. It's a quantum thing right now.
Well, it's a
Point
clock,
being,
man.
like
It's
once
like
they
a
started
clock.
fusing, all of them started fusing, and then new elements started getting created, and we now have the periodic table, and like that
Okay,
stuff led to the things that led to the sun, to the early
well,
Earth, to
this is what I think
present.
happened is like you had this clock, right? You had all the gears and it was all working well, right? And then ancient civilization was gone. Okay, it got destroyed over time. We're not truly sure 100% what happened. And then now we have like 70% of the clock and some new parts that we just kind of added to reinvent certain things. And like we think we know the picture, but like we don't, right? But like I don't think it's really funny. I was listening to Joe Rogan's new comedy thing on Netflix, and it's funny because he mentioned an idea or a concept I thought about lots, like lots and lots, and I think it's the funniest idea ever. Is like even if the Christians were right, right, and you got this God coming back, it's so funny because nobody is going to believe it. They all believe the religion. They'll believe in old miracles or believe in something that took place thousands of years ago. But they're like, oh, what? God talked to you in a dream? No, that didn't happen. But if you read this story, God visited this person in a dream, but I don't think God does that anymore. Like it's so funny how like they react to that. So like even if they were right, it's so funny because they're like all wrong. They don't even believe the own bullshit that they're preaching, man. They're like, yeah,
I'd be the kind of person to do that. Maybe sometimes I talk about something just to throw it out there. But
yeah.
like if you start doing it all the time and you like base yourself around it, that's when you're not doing it right.
Yeah. See, but there's a fine line between understanding you're playing with ideology and understanding you're playing with I guess philosophy because philosophy is the search of something. But just because I
But like
called those
writing music, like writing life too. Like living life is like, well, it's not writing life. Like in a way, it's like the choices you make is like writing life.
it is writing life. It is.
Yeah, it's a pretty good way to look at it, I guess. I
Like,
mean, what kind of story do you want to have, right?
yeah, exactly. But like here's the big
Well,
question. Is like, are you truly just choosing what story you want to have? Or are you filling out a story that was already written?
well, that's the idea. So destiny and fate, I guess. I don't know. I think like putting your belief in real things kind of determines that in a bit a way. Like I think belief leads that. I think belief leads fate. I think belief leads destiny, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. But like, don't you think that like what you said that like it like in believing in real things, it's like one and the same?
Well, I don't know. What I meant when I said that, when you're believing in real things and how that kind of becomes your fate, right? Like if I believe in guitar and my guitar playing ability to like be a hobby and be something I enjoy and a passion for the rest of my life, I'm gonna put more of my fate is gonna be more of the fate of a guitar player, I guess.
Yeah, and like I understand that concept. That's yeah. But like what I mean is like if you
You should
if you're like choosing, right, to play guitar, right? When you were born, okay? something decided, when you think about the rarity of your combination of DNA and how you are, something decided it's like, either Taylor, you're going to play guitar, or here's freedom of will, right? And that's something we truly like to think
Oh,
we have. But the thing is if something knew everything and then hid from us and never told us, but was like controlling us the same way a person with knowledge above somebody without knowledge controls somebody,
yeah.
right? Then it would be pretty much the exact same thing. Everything goes inside everything. It would be endless. I'm starting to think that a lot of religious ideas might have been just Egyptians and ancient Greece and like Norse and all their ways of describing life back then. Like I think they're talking about, architecture and geometry and all these things, right? But then at this time, you have this movement which they create these religions, and then those religions turn around and now call them pagans because over, few hundred years they forgot.
Yeah. Going back to geometry, I was thinking about geometry inside of a computer. And I don't mean like the geometry of the circuit board or the parts of the computer, the components of the computer. I mean the geometry within a computer program and within computer memory bases, and how the relation between memory bases and how they're linked up creates an array of however many dimensions. But it's only possible for storing numbers, really. It's only what we can make of those numbers that turns into anything.
Yeah.
So like I want to look up what a
But
quantum
they're all
is,
zeros
because
and ones.
it does something different. It stores.
But they're all zeros and ones. And what's super
It
interesting about it is
means
no
cubes.
one is the exact same as another one, and no zero is the exact same as another zero.
What was that? Zero and one
Yeah,
zero
they're all zero,
says another
they're
zero.
all zeros that they're all zeros and ones. And no one is the exact same as another one in binary, and no zero is the exact same as another zero, right? So I think this is kind of where the idea of the matrix was coming from, right? Is like you have these zeros and ones, you have like the idea of a chance or a choice or a splitting option, but like what's the option is like, okay, this side's good, this side's bad. You got your red pill, blue pill. You got your zero, you got your one, right? But like if another person chooses a one, they're now a one. But like each of them has an alignment on the grid to where they have to fit in order for that coding sequence to work. And if they step out of that alignment, then the coding doesn't work. You have to start all over again, right? And then they're not programmed anymore into the computer. So then they now have to be unplugged from the computer of consciousness. They have to reset themselves, like ground themselves, right? It's like rebooting, and then they plug themselves back in and go back into this place that's affecting everything, right? Like, because they're in another dimension in the movie, right? Now, but that other dimension would be
Movie.
essentially if you put living organisms inside a computer, right? And a computer was living, that's essentially what it would look like. This computer God, right? So, like, if Google had little people inside its quantum computer, which it does, working quite literally has that. It's so funny. Fucking like if you put people literally inside the internals of the computer that you didn't know were there, like just the consciousness of them, and they could work there, they would still be affecting the universe the same way your consciousness is affecting the universe from your body. And this is exactly why they even fear the possibility of AIs being able to learn or obtain human life. Because there's some things that are just like we might have gone too far with. What they used to call fucking black magic back in the days, they named pagans, is what we call science now.
Yeah, stuff they didn't understand. That's not anymore though. I don't know. I keep thinking about how like muscle memory gets learned and how that's almost like programming your body to a certain function.
Yeah. So like here's the deal is I think you need to listen to that moral compass. That moral compass is your biology. It's telling you, hey, behave in this manner. And you have a choice to make. Are you going to be a 0 or a 1? Are you going to ignore what it is asking you to do, or are you going to do it? If I'm hungry, am I going to ignore being hungry and continue on? Or am I going to stop and take the time to eat? Over time, my accumulation of choices will make a sequence. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. You know what I mean? And then over that time, that will have an effect on the computer, which will then have an effect on the organisms around me that I stretch out to. Maybe I have a family, maybe it's just my mom, my dad, and my girlfriend, or, and that's going to have an effect on them for the rest of their life, but not in the sense of just a memory, but will become something that defines them, right? So like that 0-1 choice has like this greater scale of choices. So it's the same way that you were talking about, like you can choose to shape your destiny with the guitar. You can choose that, but you can also choose that in the greater scale to understand the repercussion of your choices among other people, right? So like it can be as simple as actually choosing to engage and not engage. I love the story like people give when they're like, oh, if I just never ever met this person. And I'm like, you're the one that chose to engage in a conversation with them. You're the one that chose to have any sort of relationship with the person. It doesn't matter if they pressured you or not to being where you are, or if this happened or that happened. It's like initially you attracted an energy into your life. That energy showed up. You chose to engage with it. You didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Here's the outcome, right? And
I keep thinking about that, like people being in a different position of knowledge and having that kind of influence and being like, and unwilling to like give help or like clues and stuff in situations like that because they want them to fail and they want to, because they profit from it in a way, like.
Well, no,
like that could be it, right?
Actually, nobody.
That is something that exists in the world.
Yeah, but like
I don't even know what it is, what I was originally referring to, but
here's what it is, Taylor. Is it's a waste of time. Is because like I could sit here and tell you till I'm blue in the face. If you're an 8-year-old, I could sit here and give you a bare basic idea about consciousness and word it in 8-year-old terms and say it 50 billion times and probably tell you for the next 5 years. And you're still not going to get it. Eventually, sooner or later, I'm going to just stop saying it, realize I've drilled it into your head, retreat to doing my own thing, and one day you'll show up and just like do it on your own, and I'll be like, well, all that time I spent doing that was absolutely pointless because this person figured it out all by themselves. So like there's that too. I think sometimes here's where I think we need to trust the moral compass the most. If we trust our moral compass enough that we're confident in it, we can be confident enough to know that other people are being guided by a moral compass of that same stature, whether we disagree or agree with their ideas. So then eventually that compass will get them to where they're supposed to be. because they are just zeros and ones on a grid. Like they have a role to play. And that's like kind of where I look at like predestiny or fate in a sense. Like I was destined to die the minute I was born. The only thing I get choice of what's in the middle.
Yeah.
Past, present, and future.
You got to work with the options that you have, though. No matter what. Between that beginning and end, you've got.
But like
we only have
these
to
law
wrap it.
seven,
Like,
law number
all I have is
seven,
what's in this room.
Taylor, law number
This house.
seven.
Well, I don't know. I guess I have some things spread out of. Like most things are contained like in one spot, right?
The law of adaptation and change. Law number seven. The law of adaptation and change. Pretty much discussing that you need to adjust to even a negative change or circumstance in your life, no matter how big or how small, in a positive manner. So if you do something in a positive way, I need to respond positively to that and embrace that and feel it and feel good so it serves its full potential. But aside from that, if something negative happens to me, I get hit with like a $4,000 bill, I need to respond to that also in a positive way. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, save this money here, maybe move this around here and adjust and pay that bill. Because if I respond negatively, oh, fuck, why does this always happen to me? Now I'm entering that cycle that's just going to keep going and going, and it's just gonna lead more. It's like stubbing your toe or like fucking your day's just getting worse. Except that's like a time period. These like 5 months were awful because I didn't adjust positively to this.
Yeah. That's when like I think things that like recenter you or recenter really really help. In times like that, or like obviously if something pulls you out of where you normally are at, where you're normally feeling at peace and stuff, then you need to do something to balance, or just wait until the next day. I mean, sometimes sleep is really the best thing to do it.
I think rather than trying to micromanage our days, right? You just kind of think about things as they come up. And when something comes up, you put away that other thought and just think about what's currently on your plate. So like, all right, you wake up in the morning, you're going to think about your school or whatever you're doing, or you maybe making breakfast, maybe a workout, but then you're not going to think too far beyond that point, because then you're going to start getting like anxiety. You're not going to be like, well, I have to do this and then I have to get this done. You're just going to like, okay, I'm going to go get the workout done. Okay. It's like 8:30 now. All right, now I'm going to eat some breakfast. All right. And I'm going to spend my time, and whatever thoughts are popping up in my brain at that time, that's the time I'm going to set aside to work on those things. And then I'm going to keep going about my day and following whatever is like kind of taking place, more like getting on the bike and riding it rather than just pushing it.
Yeah. If you don't know you're walking beside a bike, pushing it along, you can't jump on it and ride it. And sometimes you're gonna fall over. So you gotta try it again. You gotta have faith that the pain is going to pay for success.
I like to think I have a lot of faith in things, because like I look back to like where my life was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even 10 years ago. 10 years ago was unbearable. I don't even know. Like I wasn't doing drugs quite yet, but fucking I was an annoying little shit to be around, I'll tell you that. And freaking I didn't know anything. Like I had some traumatic experiences in life, but I didn't know anything about the rest of living. And fuck, yeah, I was an arrogant little asshole. That's what I was. But like now I look at it, I'm like, I don't know much. I know a little bit, but I don't know much. But like I look at what I know and I'm like, fuck, I've forgotten more than what that idiot ever knew.
Yeah. It's like as you climb up something, like say you're climbing this a mountain or like a ladder, some tower, whatever, going up an elevator, or you're in a glass elevator that floats. And the farther you go up, you climb this thing, the farther you see you have to go. You can go. Because like the distance to the horizon increases as you raise the elevation, right? So the higher you go, the farther you can see, the more you know you need.
Yeah, it's the idea of like working up a pyramid per se, or the higher up the pyramid, the like closer to like the view of everything that you're gonna get. But
But
like,
there's also like other things that come and affect it and make these shaded areas that you can't see as well. Like,
but
well,
no,
I've
but
seen
like,
that before. I kind of know what's there, but
like
it's shaded.
it all goes inside each other, right? If you don't have, think about it this way, Taylor, right? If you're at the bottom of the pyramid, okay, right? And you got all those people that are the base and they all want to go up and they will have their time. But like if they all go up at the same time and there's no base anymore, well, what happens to the rest of it?
What do
It
you mean?
crumbles. If you
Oh,
take the base, if you
okay.
take
Like,
the
there's the
base of an
supports.
object and the
Yeah.
base is like, if you're thinking about like pyramid scheme, right? And the base is like this group of people here, right? And they're like, oh well, they're stuck in this negativity a little bit, and they're like, hey, well, why can't we have this? And this is like this, right? But if all those people were just elevated to the top and there's nobody holding the bottom anymore, the evolution says that the next level would have to be the new bottom, right? So pretty much, like if you just do this, the structure would fall. Like if I rip the base out of a house, well, the whole house would come down, right? So like then you have nobody on top and you have only everybody at the bottom. Okay. And people could say, well, why is that not equal? Well, it can be equal, except it's not going to stay that way because individually we have thoughts that will end up no way you're going to govern that many
I think
people.
it's unequal because it needs to be a structure to things.
Yeah, you need structure.
So,
So
I
like
mean, certain
gotta
parts of
have
structures always feel more of the force than others and have more, things
law
happening.
number
So,
law number 4, the law of order and timing.
order and timing. That applies here, right? Order, I suppose. I don't see
Man,
how the timing applies.
we've covered 3 of the laws. I think they're pretty applicable laws to life. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so you think that it's like, I don't know, I don't want to say wrong, but not wise to try to plan the time. Like if you plan the order of the things you're going to do, then trying to plan the time that you're going to do them, do you think that makes sense ever? Or do you think I'm
No.
going to do this thing until it's done, and then I would do that thing until it's done, and
Like, I mean, if I
time is
have to
time
go
is
to
good.
it, I
Yeah.
laugh at like doctors and stuff because, like, I mean, I call the office. They're like, be here at 9:15, and I'm like, yeah, I will be. I'll be there 10 minutes early, and you guys are never on fucking time, and I'm gonna sit there for like a half hour after my appointment was supposed to start. Like, and this is no matter what, right? So like in that sense, I'm like, I laugh about it a bit, but like, I'll like, okay, I have this appointment, I'll be here at this time, right? Or I gotta be at work at this time. But like, yes, you're right. Like, I disagree with that. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna wake up and this is how I'm gonna go about my day. And wherever I am, that's exactly where I am supposed to be. And
Yeah.
anybody coming in there and telling me different, you get those guys, right? Oh, what the fuck are you doing today? You got that done and that's it? Yeah, I'll turn to them and I'll be like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Because like now you're imposing on my space and I'm like, I'm chilling here doing my thing. You're gonna come in here and start telling me through my day and how things went for me, how I should react to that. It's like, nobody. Let me double check you back to your own self, and like the world can go back to order, and we're just going to continue on with this. Don't try to rush me because I was going to get this much done today, regardless if you yell at me right now or not. When I woke up yesterday, this much was going to happen today. When I woke up a week ago, this is how much what was going to happen next Wednesday. Then nothing more and nothing less was going to happen that day.
So like you prescribe to that being the fate, I suppose.
Yeah. So like I definitely believe in fate, but like I think fate goes along with an intellectual design. And I think that means that the fate has a conscious that's like far greater than all humans put together. So like, but I think we're all just a piece of it, of that same computer, of that same whatever, right? So like your energy was maybe traveling in a beam through some mass explosion, and then it come together and it formed, and when you opened your eyes it was like fucking 1994 or 95, whatever year it was that you came out of your mother's fucking womb there.
95.
95, yeah. And then you were like, okay, now this is life. Now people are going to fill you in what was taking place before. And this is currently where you are. And now you're going to be the future. And then you're going to do the same thing. And so this is ongoing cycle that never ends. It's not just in seasons, but in generations and legacies and centuries. And
yeah, I like how each generation believes less in the next generation that comes after them. Like, our kids are idiots. And the next generation goes up like, our kids are idiots.
Well, it's true though. Like, there's been lots of subtle changes.
Maybe
like,
not
even settle. This is not settle anymore. They're like, fucking, if I went home when I was a kid and was like, fuck, man, if I went up to a teacher when I was a kid and was like, that person called me a nigger, they would have been like, you're not black, shut up. Why are you tattling? But like, now, if I did that, the fucking school would shut down. My parents would go meet with the principal. I'd get pulled out of school for like 3 days just because my parents are being fucking rebellious. And then they would like go in there with some sort of fucking lawsuit about how this other kid offended him because maybe this white kid was part black. And then they would have like some throwdown in the office. And then like after that, then it would go to court, get drug out for 2 years, use a fuck ton of money. And then all that money is just going to go back into cycle. Some rich ass lawyer is going to get paid off it. Whoever is lucky and deals the winnings of the case there. And then the fucking school will have its name dragged through mud. And like, that's the world you live in now. And at one time it was like, oh well. Meanwhile, the generation that went, oh well, is like shot each other up on the beaches and all around the world and died in mass murders against each other in order for you to argue about the politically correct term for the LGB community or the fucking...
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It was like the troops went into the fight with an idea what freedom they were fighting for, and then it evolved in a way that they didn't agree with.
But I'm gonna turn around and call my grandpa a motherfucking gayist because he's telling me that I'm a gay piece of shit pretty much, and I'll be like, oh yeah, well you're just gayist, you're a fucking homophobe, and he's like, bitch, I'm the reason you can even fight about that in court.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying? Like fucking, And I'm not actually gay, in case anybody thought that. I'm wearing kind of a gay sweater. I don't know if anybody would have thought that. I know you don't think that, but anybody who might possibly see this in the future, and I'm like sitting there, well, I could be gay. Yeah, no, I'm not gay. I do not suck cock for a living. I was talking about dick farms and shit earlier. I'm not sure what happened there. I guess we all have our moments. We all have our moments.
That one was pretty absurd. I was like, what the fuck?
We all have weird.
I tried to make it funnier and it did not get funnier.
No, but you know what? That whole stretch started off very strong and was super funny though. So like then just the one bad like little like fucking minute and a half there, not so bad because the rest of it's pretty hilarious. Like the whole idea of how we're just reincarnations of God's poop. That's fucking spectacular. I like that. God, at the end of time, pretty much decides to digest us by blowing us up or however he decides. And then as we enter into the stomach, which is like the waiting room before judgment and pass through to see how our soul gets refined, we go through the intestines and we go through the refining process to simply pass out the rectum or the anus hole to be reborn into the earth and breathe new air as a giant pile of shit.
What a picture you paint. Wow. You know, I never thought about it like that before. I always thought about it in the traditional, it's science way.
You know what I keep thinking about though?
Kind of boring, but I think
like
it's actually
you got God, Taylor, and then you got like the planets and the organisms, and then you got that, and it's just like we're eating small life, things eat us, and then it's just like the universe could eat the planets. That God could eat that. But like, do you think there's something else that could like eat the God? That would like reincarnate the God into some sort of God human species poop? So that'd be like evolution. So
travel.
Like, do you know what? I'm starting to think the idea of God is the best described as like one gigantic magic schizophrenic motherfucker. He's just got split personality. He's just got split personality disease going on all over the fucking place. He's like, oh, I'm another person. I'm another person. I'm another person. Like that poor fourth dimensional bastard.
I said he again. God's got more than that going on. You just always use the name. Just always use the name God.
We always, yeah.
Don't say any sort of pronoun because God is not human. God has no. God is God being everything. God being the universe. God being all of it. It is. You know, we know that it's like energy it forms into these balls of matter, and then they have these forces that interact between them and they fuse, and you know, create these different types of bonds between each other, and based on mostly their electrons and the way that the electrons take up space around a nucleus, where they are, how many of them there are.
It's like watching you
what conditions they need each other.
Watching you understand some of these.
How much of them there are. Temperature's an energy, just thermal energy. Pressure is a force, really. It is a force per volume, which is just a force applied in multiple dimensions. Force applied in 3 dimensions. Pressure. There you go. Temperature's energy.
Understand
that's how many.
things, though.
And then there's
you're looking at all these big concepts, okay, and watching you like try to grasp them because they're like new knowledge to you is like watching a Jedi first first try to obtain his energy in each one of these fields, right? It's like I see like this little spark, this little fire up. It's like you don't quite got it, but you're like, all right, so there's this thing. And you got like this spark, and then you like move on, and you're like, so there's a spark. But every time you come back to it, the spark gets a little bigger, and the understanding you get a little bit better, right? But that's what it's like for me listening to you describe this right now. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. You're just like applying this learning, and I'm like, could literally almost like see the energy amongst your movements as you're like getting it. But that's just it. That's what those space neurons are doing. They're taking up space, yes, but they're communicating to each other. They're sending off signals. They're understanding the full consequence of the system.
It's like you and I.
My subconscious feeds me thoughts. I decipher which thoughts, and I cyclate those thoughts through my body, which I then manifest into physical things.
It reminds me of like meditating and kind of like breathing and allowing that breath to circulate, like feeling it, not feeling, but imagining, I suppose, but sort of feeling too, but like breathing in, knowing that that oxygen goes into your blood and then it flows throughout your bloodstream and it gets to your brain and it flows around your brain. And then what else is flowing around in your brain? I mean, you think like your thoughts are flowing around in your brain. Your consciousness is flowing around in your brain. So like each breath feeds your consciousness. I was writing this song one time. It was like, life changes one breath to another. You know, some people are like, life changes a day at a time. But it's like every breath, life is changing. Even in between that time, things are changing. But like thinking of it on that scale, I think that really is a humanizing, I suppose, is what I want to say at the end of that.
I think you're right. Like, I used to think about that. Like, the first time I thought about that concept, about like how each breath is changing or like how short, I was actually thinking about it in seconds. I was like, well, an hour is an hour, 45 minutes is 45 minutes. And I got down to like a second, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, every second, if I think of something new, right? Well, then I guess I thought of something and figured out something I didn't know before, right? So I'm like, that second has come and then passed on, and now another one's here and passed on, and another one, and I got into that moment a few times when I was younger. The thing is I was like fucking 9 years old, 10. I think that's how old I was when I started playing with that idea.
That's so young to like come onto that. Like that's such a genius thought. Like such an intelligent thing to be aware of, I suppose. Like such an awareness, I guess.
But like, you know? I'm a firm believer in trauma. Like, I believe that trauma and like certain chemistries of the brain can make up a reaction. So like, I think that like we have like, okay, yeah, right when you have this baby, but right away his chemistry's off. It's going to be set to the person and the people that had him, the parents, right? That's the DNA of the baby. So like, freaking, as you start to like do things, your brain is affected by that, like by those chemicals, right? So like, I think just being a child that I was and the life I experienced, those were fun things for me to think about at that age. That was the non-serious part of life, which is so funny. And because like now I can look back at that and see where the naive of those thoughts are, because like, oh, well, the thing that's actually now the most important part of life. And I would have never guessed that part then. But like, there's lots of things I could look into, and I was just like, well, I know something makes me me. That was something I thought about when I was 7, consciousness, right? But I didn't know it was consciousness, and I was like, I know something makes me me, and this is who I am, and I don't know what makes me me or how I choose to choose this or that,
but like something does. And I think that's where I started to look at like this concept of God and stuff. Because I'm like, right away, I'd never really ever believed anything anyone told me. I was like, you fucking beat me up in a ditch. You put words into my brain and in my mouth when I'm not speaking and tell me I'm thinking this and doing this and this is what I did and then beat me for it. I'm like, I don't understand you, but I'm going to sit here silently. And it's so funny because everybody thinks I got away with it. But then I got older and I was like, fucking, all right, asshole, you do this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. And then like people are like, where do you get off telling me? And that's when I started thinking about that concept of God, where I'm like, well, you know what? If God actually did show up and started judging everybody, nobody would fucking believe it because like here I am just showing up judging everybody now after I've been like abused and quiet my whole life and did absolutely nothing to deserve any of this shit, right? And then I'm like, and I never turned into that. So then I'm like, okay, well, I don't understand this, this, and this. I'm like, well, the only way, I guess, to give it a fair assessment, right, is I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to go understand those things. And the only way to do that would be by doing. So, like, the only two things at that age and time I knew were, like, okay, farm lifestyle and drugs are bad. So I'm like, okay, drugs are bad. Why are they bad? I'm like, all right, drugs it is. Let's go visit that topic. And yeah, that turned into a very long studying process. It's still going.
Yeah. I mean, different people react differently to drugs, I think. Like,
But like that's what would have alerted me to a higher sense of thinking of those things. Like fucking that was traumatic. And then like I had imagined like somebody like me has had multiple traumatic experiences over time, it almost becomes humorous. But like a psychologist says something and your brain's not working right. I and my parents didn't believe in that shit, so I never went to no psychologist. And I'm like, people would say shit like that or just around me and I stay silent a lot. And I was like, huh, I think that thought. I'm like, wait a minute. Does that mean I'm going to become a serial killer now? I'm like, what are you fuckers trying to say here? I'm like, the only way I'm going to kill you is like, if I mean, like, there's food and like me or you. You know, I'm gonna eat that shit. I'm like, fuck you. I'm gonna stab you. I'll break your neck right there as you stand. I don't give a fuck. This is survival. At what part
life.
of life was this ever fun? You know, like
Yeah,
here's the deal. It's like in the end, we're both gonna die anyway. So just let me kill you first, and I'll enjoy the steak. How about that? But I think people are scared to go get it like that. You know, like I would stand down with like the fucking most badass people on the planet. And you to like point a fucking army of people, guns at me. And I don't care if you kill me, I'm gonna still do something. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna do something. I always imagine that. Like if you like turned on some big world group or political force that like and discovered the secrets of like what was actually happening and like told the rest of the world and like it was a good thing to tell them. It wasn't going to create complete chaos, you know? And like all these people just like were coming for you. It's so funny. Everybody just runs, right? But like me, I'd be like, well, no, they're going to bring like a mob of people to my house. I'm just going to plant explosives everywhere. And then I'm just going to like have some cellar I dug for the last 10 years. And I'm just going to go into my cellar and blow that fucking place up when they all show up there. I'm just gonna walk away.
yeah, I'm fuck them. Right?
Aside from fuck them, my whole point is this is like, how are people so stupid that the whole group of people aren't like, wait a minute, he might have some like fucking booby trap planted here because we're all coming for him like cliche motherfuckers. And it's so funny. You don't just see this shit in movies. Like, people actually do this shit. Like, my favorite is like, we're the smartest species in the world. But yet they're all like standing in line for their food and kind of nudging each other and pushing each other the exact same way a calf or a bunch of cows feeds out of a fucking trough. Are you kidding me? A buffet is not technology. That is exactly how you feed cows, you dumb fucks.
Holy fuck. I don't even know what to say anymore, man. What if holy shit. I don't even know. Alien cows.
We're dumber than cows. We stand in line like cows. We feed out of the trough like cows. And fucking when one cow finds this new part of the pasture that hasn't been yet discovered, the rest of them follow.